Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Together with me, I have Rodrigo and Gabriel. So that's awesome. Both of the co-founders of Langflow. Hello, Rodrigo and Gabriel.
Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
hi Misbah. Hi everyone. Great to see you all here.
Awesome,
Really good,
awesome.
feeling great.
So
A
we've
lot of
got,
people.
yeah, a lot of folks. Just curious. Let's see, just to make sure that tech is working fine. Everyone, where are you all joining from? Just type in the chat. Excited to see where everyone is joining from. So maybe while we're doing that, just a few quick points. On the right side of the screen, you'll see there's chat and there's also some question answers, as well as polls. So we're going to be utilizing all of those in this session. Awesome. From Germany, Brazil, Pittsburgh, Phoenix, UK,
Awesome,
Turkey. Wow.
awesome,
Okay.
awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really
Utah.
cool.
Amazing. All right. Well, this is amazing. And some folks from India. Wow, it's quite late over there.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for joining. Awesome.
really
So,
cool.
yeah, today's topic is building scalable LLM apps. And before we do that, actually, since we have both of the co-founders, I'm quite curious just about the beginnings of Langflow. How did you all start? Your vision, mission when you started? Yeah, just in any order, Rodrigo, Gabriel, just whatever you feel like sharing about the starts, beginnings.
Want me to go, Gabriel?
Yeah,
All
okay.
right. Well, I'm gonna start with the history of how I met Gabriel, I guess, and then we started Langflow and everything. Basically, so we are in Brazil, right? Gabriel and I were living in a city. It's a countryside of the countryside of Brazil, very like away from big centers. Uh, and I've been working with machine learning for a while. We were sort of playing around with data science by the time it was like 8 years ago or so. And I met this guy. So I met this guy who said, "I have a friend. This friend of mine is working with something called GPT-2." Right. And I said, all right, let me get to know this guy because by the time over here in Brazil, in my place, knowing GPT-2 was already something completely different, right? And that was, I think, 5 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. So I get to know this guy, and it's Gabriel. I said, okay, we need to work together, man. And he came. We started to provide some services, right, as a company. And then we moved to like, yeah, let's start our own project, and it started with Langflow. We can give you like an overview of Langflow as it is today, and what were the plans back then as well. But Gabriel, feel free to give you like your point of view.
Yeah. Oh, so we always talked about graphs, and we loved the idea of graphs, and we had Rodrigo used to have this idea of having like a strangely he wanted to he always talked about a hub of models, and just a couple months later we got the Hugging Face hub. So things got a little, let's not do that then. Let's think of something else. And we always kept going back to this
Almost like
graph.
that should be us. Oh my God, that should be us.
Yeah,
Hugging Face is already doing that, and then our space is already doing that. Yeah, something like that.
yeah. And then, but we always thought of connecting models in some way. And then the we saw LangChain, and I created a prototype, and we just, I showed it to Rodrigo, and we started talking late at night about all the possibilities, right? I remember saying to him, we can make like the models have a meeting and just, talk to each other to find a conclusion to some problem. And we talked briefly about creating just a prototype that would create a chain, create a lang chain thing. And and then we said, yeah, okay, let's talk about that in the morning. I briefly remembered about React Flow. I sent it to him, and then he said, "Yeah, that's exactly what We need." And then he just pinged the rest of the team. By like by the end of the next day, we were already working on Langflow, and in like less than a month, we had the first version. Right, the even like
Wow.
not the first version, but the released version was came in like in maybe 3 to 4 weeks. So that's when all it all started.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you all for sharing the backstory. Well, so it started and it became quite popular in the no code community, and that's where I was involved with the no code community and saw you all building for a UI for LangChain, right? So that's where I got excited. Okay, let's start connecting with the tools available in the no code community like Bubble, Flutterflow. That was quite interesting. Now, going from there to the today's topic, right? Um, how do you see in general the changes that happen? And I know there are some exciting features that are about to launch in the next few days. Just maybe, yeah, anything that you could share about what's coming in the near future.
No, okay. I think the best way to answer that is going to be try to illustrate what are the plans behind Langflow as a project for the future, right? And if you can see my screen, can you, Misbah and everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so getting back to that initial idea of connecting models, etc., right? The idea with Langflow is to try to add control to AI models, right? So if you think of AI as a black box, it's probably not going to be how it's going to work as we move, and it's already like that. You don't want to have a single black box you don't understand, that is doing everything. And the reality is that you need control. You need control, you need flexibility, and you need to tune these little parameters and understand every step of the process of how things are going on. And that almost asks for a new kind of IDE, right, for building this kind of app. And that was the initial idea with Langflow. So how can we um, imagine like these specific models like image recognition, image detection, entity extraction, etc. Back then, right? And then nowadays, more like a GPT, a language model specific for or trained in some database, and another language model more specified for another topic, or more expert in another topic. And then the idea here would be, how can I have all of these folks merged together, connected together, as like what people are today calling the agent society, right? And how can we connect all of these in a bigger brain, in a deeper structure, and maybe in the future make it possible to retrain this deeper structure, and make it learn and become something much more powerful than the sum of the parts, right? I think that's sort of
Mhm.
the idea behind Langflow from the beginning, right? And everything changed a bit. LangChain took things completely diverged from the initial path, but I think we're still going in a sort of tangent line to the same way we started, right? Maybe a little bit more deviated, but getting back there. And
Mhm.
with that, the features that we're proposing, there are new features for Langflow in the coming months. And I have this version of, if you still see my screen, I have this version
Mhm.
of Langflow Alpha over here. So expect bugs if you're trying something. But basically, over here you have the latest version of how Langflow is starting to look like. And I'm going to try to illustrate some of these features. And most of them are around control. So, for example, the idea behind Langflow is
Oh,
I have a
sorry,
chat. Yeah,
Rodrigo.
go ahead.
You're not showing the screen. You're showing just the
Oh, you can?
Langflow org. Yeah.
Yeah, we see
Okay, my
Langflow
bad. My bad.
website.
Let me try again. 1 second. Screen. Allow to share screen. And you
And
see right now?
yeah, While we're doing
Yes.
that, perhaps just maybe one quick question,
Yeah.
Gabriel Rodrigo. I know we showed this in the last few webinars about deployment for scalability, right? A lot of folks ask, how do I deploy where I can run my Langflow as a backend API for production, right? What's your usual suggestion? I know there are different deployment options, but how would you go by for that question?
Yeah, so I've I'm gonna maybe later I'll show some details about we did yesterday, but I'm using Railway a lot. Um, we have a template there that we keep pretty like up to date, right? We're planning on adding like all the maybe the some more structure to it. For example, uh, for now it's just a database and Langflow. So maybe adding uh, some way to, for example, to have a better cache system so that you can scale into replicas that will help with traffic. And for now, this is a good solution, right? Render is a good one too. We have some things in the oven that should be like coming in to the repo maybe in the next week, which is a Helm chart. So that will also help a lot people deploy it, right? That with that we'll also update the Docker Compose setup that we have to have like together with like for example Redis or any other key value database to have that be like a complete solution in case you're not just running Langflow on your laptop, but you want to have like a very scalable and integrated solution. That's where we're gonna get to, right? To have that one be, and also as always, right? We will have a repo for the Helm charts, and we will have all of these options available for everyone, free, right? Open source, as we always do, right? So keep an eye on that. We are working on that. There are people working on it right now, and yeah. And later I'll tell a bit more. It's a simple thing we did yesterday, but I think it's going to help specifically in this matter.
Awesome. Yeah, and many a times, I mean, I've used Render Railway, deployed it there, used Langflow as backend. It works really nice. What I usually do is I test a few things on my local computer, and, local host, see if those are working in terms of how I want the LLM app to respond, and then have the deployed version, or at least, take the flow and just deploy it to the Render Railway, whatever hosted version I'm using. So that works quite nice. And talking about changes for everyone, um, if you want to be updated, want to bookmark the repo, please go star the Langflow repo. I really appreciate. That'll you'll probably get the latest most updated version out there. So keep an eye on what's happening. A lot of changes happening here. I know these guys with the team, they're working day and night just trying to get new features out there. So yeah, definitely will appreciate the star. So yeah, Rodrigo, you were showcasing some of the latest features. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so let me try to
And
get
folks,
back to my screen and tell me if this is going to work now, please.
yeah, there's a little bit of
Can you see?
usual lag, a few seconds. That's what we noticed with this
Uh-huh.
platform. I see in the comments as well. But I think in general, once we start sharing, what we could do is Rodrigo maybe zoom in a little bit just to make sure that the words are clear.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
can you see my Langflow open?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Cool. So basically, let me try to illustrate. I think a lot of people over here already understand how Langflow work. If you don't, please
Yes.
go to our documentation. We have this alpha version that is becoming a real version very, very soon. So please go to our documentation for the alpha version. Take a look at this new, completely rebranded Langflow. And also, please send suggestions and go to our Discord for us to talk about it or ask anything. Gabriel and I, we're always there. Sometimes we're slow to answer, but we promise we will. And then I think what I can show over here, Misbah, is the latest features that we've been working on and show maybe why we plan into working on them, right? Maybe just showing real quick how like this is the most basic uh, pipeline you can get with Langflow, right? I have a chat input, right? This is a placeholder for whatever I'm gonna add into the playground or whatever the user is going to send as a message. Then I have a prompt over here. So literally anything that you can add memories to this prompt, you can add external data, maybe load files or URL, content, etc. And then you're sending that information to the model, and the model is sending that information to the chat output. And you're saying hi, and you're probably gonna get something out. Hello, how can I assist you today? Right. And the first few features that I'm going to show here are, I don't know if anyone noticed, but now components can have multiple outputs, right? And this may sound small, but it makes a huge difference. And the reason why is because when you have multiple outputs, it means you can work with both flow and composition at the same time, right? Composition meaning, let's say I want to use this model for processing some text, but at the same time, I want an agent to use this model, right? Or I want something else to use this model and run it later, right? So in other words, I can call the model or pass the callable to be called later on, right? And this is super powerful because it allows you to do like to merge all these styles of AI building together, right? Any questions?
No, I think this is quite nice. Also, perhaps use cases that you had mentioned previously, Rodrigo, right? Just if else, or if you have some sort of paths or so. Maybe you were covering that,
Absolutely.
maybe.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing I was going to show is once I send a message over here, now we have this memory table, right? So everything that you interact nowadays with Langflow goes to a memory database, and this is being stored, and you can use these messages. You can do a lot of things with them. You can use them for you can remove some messages, right? So that your model doesn't remember anymore whatever you set to it. You can create multiple memories. So imagine you have a memory just for storing information about your professional stuff, another memory just to store information about your personal stuff, or something like that, right? So imagine creating all these branches of memory, and what Misbah just said, which is what we're calling routing, right? So basically, you have components now that can do some sort of if else, right? It's this one here is called conditional router, right? It's taking a condition, and depending on the output, it's going to send your initial input in a different way, right? So you can imagine how, for example, you could get a model one or model two running your input because the input contains some specific type of information, right? So let's suppose in this case over here, what we're saying is if the input contains something related to math, it's going to send it to a model. Otherwise, it's going to send it to another model. So this is just a playground example, just to show it and to illustrate how you can now use Langflow for literally any kind of routing and creating paths with these language pipelines, if that makes sense.
mhm. Yeah, and I think that
Okay.
was one of the questions in the chat, to give an example. I think that covers that. And it could be about, just perhaps maybe one example is, some models are known to be better at math problems and some are not. It could be about coding. It could be anything, just routing in general, right? And not just that. I mean, there are many situations where you want to process certain query or so because of a XYZ, if not just routed back to the user, right? And in graph problems, many times we see that. Talking about graph, maybe a quick question, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
There's a question that is LangGraph integrated, or is there a plan to integrate LangGraph, the agent tools, and that in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, the first step for a more closely LangChain integration is probably going to be Langsmith, right? And we're already working on that internally. So the idea is that we're bringing LangGraph in ways that it doesn't overlap with what Langflow already does, right? And that's what we need to figure out. We need to figure out a way to integrate LangGraph where what the components are doing is not going to like it's going to make sense with Langflow, because a lot of the stuff that LangGraph does, Langflow already does as well, especially in this new mode, right? So that's what we're gonna try to figure out. I think Gabriel will have a lot of insights over there if you want to discuss only about LangGraph and even Langsmith or whatever. But I think that's the idea, right? The roadmap today would look exactly like this. Number one, wrap up the 1.0 version, meaning make Langflow stable, right? That's number one. Number two is going to be, let's now move to agents, right? And it comes back to these multiple outputs. If you think of multiple outputs as routers, you can also think about an orchestrator sending information to multiple agents, and these agents are sort of communicating with each other, right? So it's like the society of agents, this room of multiple little agents talking together and trying to solve a problem, right? So this is where Langflow is moving towards. And then number three is a more close LangChain connection, right? Integration. Because there's a lot still to exploit from what the LangChain library and its derivatives bring to us, and we don't think we do it exactly in the way we wanted to do yet, right? So that's going to be sort of the third step. But I'd say very soon you see something related to LangGraph and agents as a whole, right? And then yeah, Gabriel, if you have any thoughts over there as well.
Yeah, no. To me, I think to add is just that what I said in an answer I got there is um, one important part and very important part for agents is the state management, right? So we'll what we'll try to do is create a way so that even LangGraph and maybe even other platform or other frameworks that we might integrate with have how will they uh, change the state? Their state will be how Langflow will change its state, and will the integration will have sort of like a state integration as well, right? So that uh, in a uh, in a way you're just building the agent in Langflow using whatever tool you need to integrate that, right? Just what we're planning on doing with vector stores that or memory, that we have our own memory table and functionality, but we will also have that be integrated with whatever other memory you're using, so that you can have a seamless development experience, right? And with agents, it's a lot more powerful than that, right? It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
And by the way,
So
Misbah, I didn't I didn't show, but one of the new features as well, and we'll probably cover some of them as we speak, but uh, just so that everyone is aware, is going to
sure.
be multi
Yeah. So back to you, Rodrigo.
multi-type, right? So yeah. So can you see that?
Yes.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. So this is just a stupid like testing the router, right? So basically over here, I checked if the input is about math or not. If so, it's going one way. If not, it's going the other way, right? And one of the outputs is saying, yes, it's about math. It's not about math. It's about math. And then I send a dog and says, oh, no, it's just random text, right? Or it shouldn't even say text, right? It should say something like it's just a file. But I mean, the idea here is that, yes, we now have like multi outputs and we have multimodal as well, right? And this is a huge change to us because it doesn't mean we just have images. It means we completely changed Langflow structure to accept other types that are not text, and then the next types are going to be much easier to come, right? Audio or video, etc.
Nice. So for the multimodal, you said images are accepted now. One could send images to this model again.
Exactly,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're also starting to update for now the OpenAI component, but we'll support all the others that have JSON mode, right? Um, we ran some experiments yesterday. We have a team friend of ours, Namastex, doing these types of tests for a long while, right? But we're trying to see if we get a good way to even define the schema inside the component, right? So it's gonna it's gonna allow for a lot more flexibility on building schema, and there's a lot more in that area too that we're planning, having good ways to define schemas, tools, and things that can help you get your agent to a production level, right?
Mm-hmm. Nice. So I think perhaps Rodrigo, you're answering question around structured output parsing. What's in Langflow right now, or in the upcoming versions for structured output parsers?
Yeah, we have a very easy way to implement components through the code, right? So basically, this is a concept that, and I'll get to the answer of that question, but just trying to get there through another way. Langflow is trying not to be the like the components, right? What we're trying to be is the factory of components. Okay, so we're everything that Langflow is doing is to become more and more simple for people to just create their own component with Python code, right? So if you understand Python, you can use Langflow to create whatever component you want over here, and this is basically the new way to create components. And what I mean by that is when someone asks me, do you have any integration for output parsers or something like that, my immediate answer is yes, absolutely, because we accept Python, so there is we can use LangChain output parsers, right? Have we implemented them in the sidebar already? Probably in the next few days, right? But what I mean is implementing an output parser over here would take probably just a few hours. And then the only reason we probably don't have the one output parser, the one yet is we're just deciding exactly what we're going to have, how this component is going to look like, and the behavior of how it should behave, right? So is it going to be plugged into the prompt as instructions, and then an output parser in the end, or we'll have just a single output parser in the end? Exactly how this component should behave, we haven't just quite decided yet, but we're like 95% on that. And then back to the no, Misbah, go ahead, and then I'll just move on with features and stuff.
Sure. No, I think that this is quite nice. One thing I wanted to ask on scalability side is many times when you build LLM apps, you want to have some transparency of what happened, right? So just logging, and perhaps having some sort of memory. So you showcased in the previous use case, Rodrigo, how someone could go and see some of the sessions that they had. Could you showcase, what's coming in the future about just traceability, logging, and memory?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there are a couple new features about inspection that we've been adding that are quite nice. The first one is when you run a component now, you can see what came out of it, right? So we have our basic types, but imagine like any like structured objects or just text or images and so on, and you can visualize them over here. So everything that you do from this point on is going to be like easy to verify. Did things go right? Did my text get split like correctly as I expected before I feed it to a vector store and so on? And so you're basically monitoring how stuff are coming out over here first. That's step one, right? And then we have on the logs page, this is a new window as well. You can basically see what like everything that happened within each component. So if you have an error, things are going to appear over here. If you have, it's going to show you the status, what components sent what, etc. Right? And third, you have memory inspections. So if you come to messages over here, these are all of the messages from all of your flows, and you can use them across different flows as well. So let's say like what happened in my previous conversations or my previous apps, right? I can literally come over here and see how things went, how things came through, and I can literally come and just remove some of them. And the plan is over here. And since this is alpha, I may not even know if this is already possible or not. But the plan is that you can literally just come to the playground, and you'll be able to actually to change previous messages, right? So you can inspect the behavior of a language model. Imagine you're talking to it a bit, giving some instructions, and then say, hey, what if I changed a message up there, like in the first messages, just to see how the model is going to behave right now. So sort of trying to explore the behavior of the model by tweaking with the memory and previous messages that you sent to the model.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. So yeah, back to you, Rodrigo, with the demo.
Okay, yeah. So another feature that I'd say is pretty new and probably very important, especially from 1.0 on, is the update component, right? So everything that you have that is outdated right now is going to show you. And this is something that people struggled a lot of times in the past and asked us to do something about, which is, hey, all right, I put a component on the screen, but it doesn't run. Why is that? And then we have to figure out that the version that people were using, and you can check your version over here, the version was different from when that version of the component was extracted, was exported, right? So people were basically using different versions, and we didn't have a clear way to mitigate that. And now we have this update component over here that is just going to update the code of the component in real time. And now from now on your sidebar, you're just going to see the new version of it. Another one is the freeze, right? So something that happens a lot with these pipelines is that you want to stop something from running twice. So let's say you parse the URL, you already have the data, and you don't want it to be running like twice or every time you're trying a new message. So uh, you basically run your component, and then what you're going to do is you freeze it, right? And then from this point on, whenever you run anything again, it's not doing anything. It's just a frozen output with the same output it had before. Okay, that's another cool little feature. Some more over here, I'd say, Misbah, would be you have. So let me show you this menu bar for components, right? And we basically have first keyboard shortcuts, right? So much easier to inspect everything that's going on and so on. And then we have these, like you can save components to your sidebar. You can duplicate components, copy, share them to the Langflow store. Hello, hello.
Uh, yeah, we can hear you, Rodrigo.
Okay, okay. You can even minimize components for easier like visualization, and you can download them to share with anyone. Okay, so you can download components, share components, etc. And then if you come to the API session, that's where you are going to just take everything out to become production level, right? So basically add your tweaks, start playing with each one of your components parameters, change some of them, run them on your code, and move it to another level, right? I think the idea here is how can I start like these apps, these AI apps, they require a lot of iteration, right? So you want to go through, talk a little bit to the model, try again, maybe see how the behavior is going, like is helping or not, then maybe change models, temperatures, knobs, etc. And then once you go on with the prototyping and the experimentation, you move to production, right? So that's basically it. I'm almost sure that I may have forgotten a few of the new features, but as we speak, I'll try to remember them.
Yeah, Rodrigo, a quick question while you're on the components. So there's the question that is the code for the component in the flow is not something referenced to a file or something, right? It's available in the UI or it's available with the component.
Yeah, so basically the component, Gabriel, you can go ahead. What's that?
Okay. Yeah. So the component is saved in the database. So all that data is saved in the database. The components you see on the sidebar, they are uh, files that we developed, and then they are parsed and passed on to the front end. So whenever you change the code or some component in the sidebar gets updated, the ones in the flow might not be, and you might not want them to be updated. So you have the option to update them, or you can just keep, because oh, I know mine is working, and maybe they updated it to a way that I don't like or that I don't want to change because everything is working right now, and then you can just keep it in your current version. But mostly it's advisable to update it because uh, bug fixes can happen all the time, and this will help most of the times, right? And the idea of having files being referenced is something we've been thinking about a lot because it helps with debugging, helps uh, with just development, right? And it will come in sometime in the future, better ways to develop components, right?
So
Hmm.
I'm trying to do the little thing while Gabriel was speaking, just to show like how these things work. So basically, what I did here is I opened a custom component, but I just added a new text input to it, and it could be an int input, it could be a drop down, it could be a maybe a boolean or something like that. So we created, and I just created this new field called Hey Misbah, right? And actually, the field is called my input, and the value at the default value is Hey Misbah, and there you go. You have this new field over there. And when you come to the build output, you're going to like literally just create whatever Python function you want, and it's going to perform and send the result out to this little guy over there, right? And you have a lot of customization over here as well. So you come to advanced, you want to hide that input. It's hidden. You want to maybe you want to spit out like different types of. I just played around over here. Create your own output types. Create your own functions within over here, or display something different with self.status. It's really customizable. Again, the goal is control. Langflow is around control to your AI pipelines, and that's what we need. It's a no-code tool, but it's completely code as well, meaning the problem and the limitation with no code in general is that you reach a point where it would be better to just get back to your whatever VS Code or wherever you rather be. And Langflow wants to surpass that step, right? And say, hey, you have the easiness of going like visual, but you also have the flexibility and the control of code. So let's say I created something over here. Now I want to save that component. This is it. It's over there, right? I want to change the name, and I'll just do that. And I want to add some, maybe some markdown description for people to understand what I'm doing, right? Woohoo. And there you go. And then what you do is, yeah, I want to save that guy, or even if I want to do something more bold, I can come through, like come with take my previous components, group them, and then create something out of this, right? Hi, and I can save this component to reuse later on. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, this is quite nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been using different custom component, but having that ability to group them, describe them, have markdown, that's quite nice. Also, the freeze option, right? People who come from maybe Jupyter notebooks, you know that you don't necessarily have to run the whole file, right? You can run each cell, and then once you run each cell, you get an output. Same thing, you freeze each block over here and keep running that. Nice. No, these are exciting features. A question actually from Mark. Mark, who mentioned that he also teaches Langflow. So thanks a lot, Mark, for joining. So the question is, are you looking to include ways to better handle metadata and specify that coming from AstraDB? So the use case here is for building a RAG app or so. Is there a way to show metadata or include that from AstraDB?
Okay.
Right.
I think this is a good, Gabriel. Maybe we go over the data stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what we've been doing, like in 1.0, right, is creating a structured object that you can select a couple points of data in it to format text, right? And once you have that text formatted, you just pass it to a prompt. So in this example here, you could create a parse that data object to get the text and the description, maybe, right? So this already is a good use case, but you also might want to have pick specific points, do some pre-processing or post-processing, and pass that on, which we're going to that as Rodrigo is doing right now, right? So this is already a good way of doing that, because then you have just like a prompt. You can put source and then put the brackets showing what it is, and then you can just keep writing the prompt to, which is like not a prompt, but it's a format for the data that's coming in from the data object. What we're planning on doing is really expanding on the ability to just pick whatever you want from inside that object, and then having these components as sort of like in most use cases, you'd have just simple pick and choose. And for specific use cases, you'd have very powerful components that will help you just get exactly what you want, right?
Yeah, and I think the beginning to that is that we're sort of trying to add our our preferred native types, right? And data is one of these types. So for these native types, we're going to have our own visualizations. We'll have our own ways to manipulate them, and maybe other components that help working with them. And this is an example, right? Over here, if anyone didn't follow, what we did here is we grabbed the information from this URL, right, langflow.org, and then I opened this information just to visualize what is going on. We have text, we have the source where it came from, We have a title, a description, a language, and so on. And I'm basically taking the text is the main key, right? And but here on the parse data, maybe I don't want text, or I want to do something else with the metadata. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a template to parse the data and pass on the text in the way that it's relevant to me. So here I'm parsing the text of the source, right, which is langflow.org, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think one use case that I see happening a lot with data like that, like this one, which is like a big text, right? The maybe you just want to grab the half end or the beginning half, right? How would you do that, right? Um, this is what we're going to try to empower, right? Maybe you want to post process it, get some piece of it, and then merge it back into the data object, and just send that as a component, as a context data, right? So that's where we're going to create a lot of components to help you with these kinds of things, right?
Yeah,
Awesome.
so like
So,
truncate a
okay.
process.
Hmm.
Yeah, every like data manipulation should be a part of the process, not like hidden from the user. That's how we're thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think in general, I think the whole thing around customization or how you can actually go to code, make changes to thing, it gives you a lot of flexibility. If that were not in there, I think then you'll be limited by just the blocks that are available in the platform. So yeah, thanks a lot, folks. Okay, so another question. This is about so this from GitMax, who's by the way one of the most active member, I would say, in the LangChain community. Thanks for joining. So the question is, can you have one flow call another flow and return the result to the original flow? So use a flow as a tool in another flow.
Hmm. Yeah, so there are actually two components for that. Because Flow as a tool is a very specific use case, right? Because it's a tool for the agent. Now, there is this Subflow component, which is very cool, and it's experimental, but I think it's almost there. We just need to pick a few more use cases to see. But as you can see, once you can pick any flow, and it will load up the instructions, or sorry, the inputs, and we're gonna add update it to upload it to show the outputs as well. Um, and the flow as a tool is a tool for the agent. So you get the same idea. You load that flow in, and it's going to process the inputs and outputs of that flow, create the schema for so that the agent can see exactly, the name and description you can define there, but the inputs and outputs will be defined programmatically, so that the agents know exactly what type of data it must go in. So in that sense, it creates the necessity to rename and edit the descriptions of your input components, because, for example, if you have a text input that is, let's say it's the name of a person, but it has to, if it's the name of a person that uh, does not start with the G, then you shouldn't pass anything. So if you sort of rename that text input and edit the description, that's what's going to be shown to the model, right? So for each input, you get to define the whole schema inside that flow, and then you have other other steps for inside the agent, right? But yeah, those two are very dear to me. there was a lot of work put into the flow as a tool component, and the subflow we're going to keep iterating over it to get it like really powerful, because it can work as a group component as well, right? You can create a flow somewhere else, and as the same way you would group it and make it into a component that you can reuse, you can also do that with a flow. So yeah, it's going to be very useful, I'm sure,
I'll
especially
do a
in very
TLDR.
complex context, right?
Gabriel, a TLDR of what you're saying, I think would be also both Gabriel and I, we are code, we are more on the code side than the no code side, right? And for the first time, we are starting to see Langflow as, whoa, I would rather use this than code, right? And it's becoming
Mhm.
like we are almost there, right? It's one step from that curve to turn, and this is getting us very excited. And I think these all of these requirements and like, you know, these requests like Subflow or a flow as a tool, etc., they are going to be like sharp in a very short term. So super excited
Mhm.
about that.
Thank you so much. So one more question about the Web 3.0. Is there some sort of integration? Not sure in general what Python libraries are available, but my feel is if there's anything in Python that you can do outside, perhaps you can do it here. But I'll let you all answer that question.
I'll
Um,
delegate to Gabriel.
yeah, I in that time I don't have a lot of knowledge on Web 3.0. I'd love to, if someone wants to ping me on Discord and tell me about it, your ideas on how to what we can do to integrate with it, or even uh, share a component on the store. Let us know. We'd love to get that working.
Okay. So yeah, in general, if you find something in Python, I think that could be done here. So that is
Mhm.
always an option for sure. Next question: is there a known issue with some vector stores receiving some sort of error, in, let's say, invalid input or so? Um, is is that something common or known about a few vector stores who were to use it in Langflow?
Yeah,
I have a comment
so
about
this
that.
error
Go ahead.
is just a bug in the latest alpha version, but as what Rodrigo showed you today is a very big change compared even to what we have in the the last alpha version. So these problems have already been solved, right? And you should we have we will release this what Rodrigo showed today very soon, right? So you'll get all the benefits from it.
Yeah, and in other words, everything that we're doing today is around the alpha version, right? So we're basically moving fast and breaking things to get everything done as quick as possible. We're not caring too much about if things remain broken or not, or actually we are putting new features or the stuff that we wanted to do and the better structure behind Langflow in favor of having to solve every single problem, because we would have to solve them again, right? And we got to a point that we finished the structuring and we finished the new components. So now the new version should not include any of these issues that we're seeing before. And once we say it's not an alpha version anymore, that's something we would care a lot about, right? And I'd say you probably won't see this kind of thing anymore.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So perhaps just an extension of that question is if someone were to build a RAG app for their team, organization, or whatever they're working on, how do you see the usual best practice for building that using Langflow and keeping scalability in mind?
Yeah, maybe I can, share a bit about that thing we did yesterday. Um, it's not a big thing, but it felt good to make it right. I think the part where um, you need like to focus on is uh, having workers, right? Because you get a lot of you get too many requests. You might need to have more bandwidth, right? So having workers help, and to that end, um, Langflow right now in the alpha right now, we don't support workers very well, especially when you're running Langflow on the web, right? Browser. If you're using the API, you should be fine for most use cases. But when you're using from the UI, you get workers, you get one request per sort of like, say computers. And um, that won't work with a cache that is in memory. And what we did is we implemented the Redis cache. We updated it to the alpha version because the alpha version is a lot more scalable than the previous one. That's a good one of the reasons is because now you can just run a Redis cache and specifically one thing that I like about I think that's probably because we know a lot about Langflow. Maybe other uh, tools have that too. Is because you can just set up all the environment variables to point to your database and your Redis cache, and basically you can anyone that has that configuration can run their Langflow on their machine, but also take advantage of their data, a big database, a big a cache, and everything around that, right? Just by connecting your Langflow to those functionalities. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think to just summarize, um, focusing on scalability, it would be to create flows that have uh, smaller flows that you can build into bigger flows, and then have more workers so that you can get more requests per second, which will help you immensely.
Awesome. So we have 2 more minutes. One quick question. If there are, let's say, in case of memory, there are a few options available right now. If there aren't many options, is that something to wait for, or just maybe also an extension of that question would be, can that be built in Langflow?
Before we answer it, please send your suggestions of what memories you'd like to see in Langflow, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's one of the parts, right? We use Astra because we got a contribution from the community. We use Zap because a few of our friends like it and they wanted to use it. But having, like, as you mentioned, having SQL database as a component and maybe no SQL databases as well as components uh, can be easily integrated with Langflow for sure. Um, Databases tend to have very big dependencies, so um, we got to be careful with having them as dependencies in Langflow. But we want more and more, and with our plans on getting memories really integrated with Langflow, it's going to be very good to have more of them, right?
Great. And also, if you have any additional suggestions, feel free to reach out to Rodrigo, Gabriel. They're active in Discord as well as LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to them. We're almost about to get to the completion of the hour. So a few additional things. Please do register for a workshop that's going to happen this week if you are on the no-code side of things. So we'll go over how to connect Bubble, which is a no-code web app builder, with Langflow, which is a no-code tool. So we'll just kind of cover how that could be done in building an AI app. If you have any additional questions, you can join our office hours. So we have started something recently. Every week on Fridays, we posted in Discord the timings and how you can join. It's an audio channel. You can bring your use cases or any issues that you're facing, or just if you want to be updated with the latest features. We're going to be doing that every week. With that, one last time, feel free to go to the repo, and please do start the repo. We'll appreciate that. And then thanks a lot for joining, and we'll see you in a week or so. Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Rodrigo and
everyone.
Gabriel. Thanks for
Loved
joining.
it. Really nice.
Awesome.
Talk to you on Discord.